Let's do a quiz. You know what a quiz is? Do you have that word here? Here's a quiz. In heaven, we're going to have jewels on our crowns. Yes or no? All those in favor? All those opposed? Actually, we should start with the crown. In heaven, we're going to have crowns. Yes? No. Some of you aren't voting. In heaven, we're going to wear cool-looking robes, white robes. Yes? No. But some of you are afraid to vote because you're afraid to be wrong. In heaven, we'll have mansions. Mansions? Yes, they're like, yes, I've got mine planned out. If you saw the closet I live in now, you know my mansion's going to be awesome. Streets of gold? Yes? No? Okay, excellent. How about this? How about in heaven we're going to eat fruit, vegetables, tofu, no flesh foods? Yes? No. Some of you are like, no, I will have chicken in heaven, yes. Well, here, let's do facts. Let's do facts. What does the Bible say about jewels? Jewels on our crowns. Some of you who grew up in an era, in a tribe that said you can't wear jewels, so you have watches on your crown. The jewelry has to be functional, so sundials on your crown. What does the Bible actually say about this? Because, I believe in the Bible, and I've had to reconstruct this belief in the afterlife, because for a long time I just said, this stuff is so surreal, we might as well talk about Disneyland, Disney heaven, than the stuff that I grew up with. So I had to kind of reconstruct it. So here's like factual stuff. So some of you, at the end of this, some of you may hate me, but I hope you'll know the truth. What does the Bible actually say about jewels in our crowns? It says this, Zechariah 9:16 is the closest we get to it. Okay, Zechariah 9:16 says, the Lord their God will save them on that day as the flock of his people. They will sparkle, his people, on his land like jewels in a crown. So first of all, there's a word here, it's the word like, which introduces metaphor. Right? Oh, we get hung up on that word like. It's all over the Bible. When we see like, we're like, nah, put the word like aside. This is real. Second of all, the problem here is that the jewels are on God's crown. We're like jewels on God's crown, so there'll be no such thing. Oh, crowns? You're like, okay, forget the jewels, but let's keep the crowns. Well, what does the Bible actually say about the crowns? No such thing. No such thing. But I'm going to go through this because some of you are like, no, sir. No, sir. Send him back where he came from, to California. The Bible, let me go through a few of the texts that talk about crowns in heaven. Psalm 149, verse 4, for the Lord takes delight in his people. He crowns the humble with salvation. With salvation. Proverbs, several times, gray hair is a crown of splendor as you age. Children are a crown. Isaiah 35, everlasting joy will crown their heads. Joy will crown your heads. James 1:2, we will receive a crown of life. 2 Timothy 4:8, we'll receive a crown of righteousness. 1 Peter 5:4, crown of glory. Revelation 2:10, crown of life. Corinthians, Paul even says, they do it, people do this race, they do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. This crown that Peter's talking about is metaphorical. It is a mark of royalty, but what Paul is trying to say, when you get to heaven, if you run this race, you will have the reward, and the reward will be like, you will be in the realm of God, in the kingdom of God, and be treated as such. What? I mean, how impractical would it be anyway to spend your life, your eternity, walking around with a crown on your head anyway? Let's think this through, shall we? Oh, this is just get bent down to pick up things, but I got to hold a crown on my head because robes. How many of you said yes to the robes? Some of you have drawn out your robes. Dolce & Gabbana. I'm going to have my, my designer robe ready in heaven. Revelation. You know what? Actually, the robes are, apparently, they're real. They were wearing white robes, says Revelation 7:9. The people in heaven were wearing white robes and they were holding palm branches in their hands. So keep the robes. Happy? This one's tough. Mansions? No mansions. No, but the hymn says that. In mansions of glory. Some of you grew up with that one, did you? And you sang it with such conviction. In mansions of glory, I want my mansion, not a tent. Really? Well, what Jesus promised us, John 14:2. If you're like fact checking right now, some of you are leafing through your Bible. No, this guy's wrong. You know what Jesus actually promised us is a dwelling, a place that we have a place that's been promised to us by Him, wherever He is. I go to prepare a place for you. Would you accept that? Would you accept that? See, because we have this weird notion that heaven is a place, or the life to come is a place where we get all of these strange trappings. Some of us have had it so hard here in this world that we imagine heaven as a place where you walk around and you eat the tropical fruit that you never can afford here at the store. Mangoes every day. Giant. Enormous. So big you can crawl inside the mango and just bathe yourself in mango. We have to reconstruct our understanding of what is to come. So here's what I did. I spent a few minutes just putting together a list of things that I believe the Bible actually teaches about heaven, and let's spend a couple moments in that, shall we? And maybe by the time we're done, you won't hate me so much because I've done away with the crowns and all the mansions and all the cool stuff that some of us were hoping for. Here's what I believe. And I believe the Bible teaches there is something coming. There is something coming. And it is real, and it is physical. It's not ethereal, it's not fog, it's not cloud. There is something coming. And this place, this new reality we'll experience together, we will experience it for reals, as my 11-year-old says, for reals, which is not a word technically. Number 2, they're going pretty fast, and you're like, wow, we're going to get out of here soon. That's awesome. Number 2, it is a place where we grow for eternity. There are things that we all want to know. There are things that we don't know now. But this is what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13. He says, now we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror, then we will know. Some of us have clung to this promise as if when we get to heaven, everything gets downloaded into our brain immediately and we know. We know. But unfortunately, the Greek text here is actually translated a little different than some of you have heard it. The word know is actually not know you will know at one point in your existence in heaven, you will know. It actually means you will learn for eternity. You'll continuously grow. Yeah. Did you find that exciting? Or do you find that not as cool as knowing right now everything? See, because God is something we'll never be. So when the life to come comes, we're going to learn for eternity. God is something we'll never be, and so our process of understanding what grace is, what love is, what justice is, what mercy is, all that will take us an eternity to understand. The prophet Isaiah says, trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord himself is the rock eternal. This text is, this explains it. The Lord is the rock eternal. This means that there's something about God that is knowable, and there's some things about God that are not knowable. That you could go to the beach. What's the beach, Leanne? Piha. Piha? Piha. You love the beach? I love the beach. You go to the beach and you stand on the shore of the beach and you look out into the horizon and you see the horizon vanish, don't you? What's beyond Piha? Do you know? Australia. Can you see Australia from Piha? No. Some of you say, yes, I can. If I squint a little, I can see the shoreline. That's not true. What you see is the vanishing point, the vanishing line, and you trust because you have looked at maps that what's beyond the vanishing point, the horizon, is Australia. God is eternal. That is, God is the never-ending vanishing point. So you could travel towards who God is, and the horizon would never end. For eternity, we will learn. We will learn. So why would we act like we don't know? We know it all now. Some of us walk around like, yeah, we've got it figured out. We've got it figured out. No, we don't. But in heaven, we won't either. We'll learn for eternity. Number three, they're going faster, I know. It's a place where we'll experience community, a never-ending life group. Isn't that cool? Never-ending life group. How many of you are participating in life groups? Yeah, excellent. So your group will never end. So you're like, no, I'm not sure that's a good idea. We'll experience community. Here's how Revelation 21 describes the life to come. It calls it a city. And John the Revelator sees a city descending to the earth. Now, here's a problem. We sing this song, "This world is not my home." Do you sing that here? This world is not my home. In the hills of Tennessee, where I spent some time studying, they love that. So, "This world is not my home. I'm just a passing through my treasure." No, this world is our home. According to Revelation, there is a future here. On this way, and what the Revelator sees is actually a city. Now, when you hear the word city, I think stolen luggage, crime, helicopters, traffic, noise, light pollution, so you can't look at the skies. You think all these, sewers, and you think, problems. But that's not probably what the Revelator is trying to describe when he says city. What he saw was a city probably because it is a metaphor for perfect community. We will live in community. When Jesus said, as he was about to die, "Make them one like we are one," he was talking about community. What the world is lacking. The world's lacking is something Jesus knew radical followers could model, and that is inclusiveness and love, which are the marks of godly community. And in heaven, we will live like that. Are you lonely? Are you lonely? You won't be in heaven. You won't be in the life to come. You won't be here in this earth when the earth is made new, when the city descends. See, I have Googled my neighborhood. That's very revealing. Have you done it yet? You find out things. For example, we are the only ones without a swimming pool. Yeah, don't feel bad, it's okay. We always hop over the fence and swim at our friend's swimming pool. But we're the only ones without a swimming pool. So if you look at the Google Earth image of my neighborhood, everyone has a swimming pool. Why? Because we can't share swimming pools, can we? That would be impractical. I mean, there was a time when you would get on a plane, for example, and there would be one shared screen, and everyone would watch whatever's on the screen. Now we all have our own little screen. Although you're watching the same thing I'm watching, I've got my own little screen. It's rampant individualism, and we live like this. I don't know if it's like that here, but back home, the world is about me, my needs, and I've got my own house and my own car and my own little carved little. Oh no, not like that though. In heaven, no, you won't live like that. In heaven, we will live in close proximity, in perfect community, no racial divisions, no socioeconomic divisions, no crazy country, nation divisions, no wallabies and all blacks. We'll be one people, perfect community. Some of us grew up with these paintings of meadows with trees and there's Jesus. And Jesus was always white. I wondered why. I mean, this is not an offensive statement in any way, because it's okay. We're a kaleidoscope of colors in the world. But when I was growing up, I was always shown pictures of Jesus in heaven, and there was always Jesus. He was from Finland or Sweden, and he was vegan, because he was always skinny, and he looked like he needed a good meal. And he always had all these little kids around him. They were also from Denmark or Sweden, and they had these nice little robes, and there was always a lion laying there, and some kid is hugging the lion because the lion won't eat the lamb anymore. The lamb's laying next to the lion, and the lion's looking at the lamb going, "I used to want to eat you, but not now. All my appetites have been transformed here in heaven, and now I just look at you and have strange memories." And there was always this forest behind Jesus. Am I alone in this one? Anyone? It's all right, yeah. And there's always a forest behind Jesus. And just beyond the forest, there's a little golden peak, like the skyline of the city. We're not going to live there. We're going to live in the grassy meadows, and my house is going to have 50 acres so that I can't see the neighbors, because, my next door neighbors now throw a party every Saturday night, and it's loud, and they play this Brazilian music, and I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning, but not in heaven, not in heaven. I'm going to have my own. No, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be perfect community, a life group that never ends. Wow, is it getting better? Now here's the question I have for you at this point. Do you want that more than crowns and streets of gold and robes? Would you exchange all of the trappings and the giant mangoes and all that for this? Number 4, heaven is going to be a place where relationships are restored. Every broken, painful, distant relationship will be restored. You know what we do when we first get to the place, heaven, where we're going next? Revelation 19:7, the Revelator says, there's going to be a wedding supper, a party. Do you like wedding receptions? I was telling the youth last night that I officiate lots of weddings because of the kind of people I work with. I work with college students, so I spend most of my time in the summers just officiating weddings, and I love it. Why? Because couples spend absurd amounts of money on receptions. If you're going to a reception, you're going to eat well. It's going to be fantastic eating. They spend, I've told my daughter, Alexandra, Allie, you get a college education or a wedding. Choose, you can't have both. Because I'm a pastor, and what I make, we're not doing both. I'm secretly hoping she chooses education. Education, please, 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 please. Well, a wedding reception is what we do first, because I believe it's a description of what happens in heaven. A wedding reception is the happiest place on earth, not Disneyland. A few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, a couple came to me and said, Pastor Sam, we're gonna get married. It happens all the time. We're gonna get married. We'd like for you to do our premarital coaching, and then we'd like for you to officiate the wedding. I said, sure, fine. In the middle of the coaching, before we got to the wedding, a little issue came up. She, the bride, came from a background that was okay with, now please don't judge, okay, I'm just reporting. I'm a reporter right now. It was okay with some things at the reception that the groom's family was not okay with. For example, dancing. Or as I like to call it, rapid repositioning. So in the middle of one of our sessions, he says, look, we got a little issue we gotta have you help with. He said, I need for her family to understand that we can't have the dancing at the reception. And she said, explain to him that there will be dancing. So I employed every skill I had, like every conflict resolution, mediation. Well, have you tried to understand first each other? Oh, we understand each other. Have you tried to somehow, what about reaching some kind of compromise? Yeah, we reached a compromise. There'll be dancing. No, there will not be dancing. That's a compromise. No. This thing got ugly. It got so ugly that then they enlisted my help in going to her family first and saying, would you mind if there's no dancing? No, there'll be dancing. Would you mind if there is dancing? No, there'll be no dancing. There'll be dancing, there'll be no dancing. Finally, the bride, because, look, let's just be honest. The bride gets what she wants. Amen? We just show up, right, brothers? I mean, there's a reason why when the bride enters, everyone stands and gives you their bag, groom, because it's not about you. They stand and they face the bride and they say, not about you, dude, it's about her. She gets her way. She went kind of bridezilla on us, okay? And she said, there'll be dancing, period. The family of the groom said, fine, then we're not coming to any of it. It was a sad day, She marched down by herself. The dad wasn't there. I mean, her dad was there. He marched down by himself. Usually, he comes down with his family. He sits them down. There was no such thing. They were absent. Everyone knew it. It was tense. At the reception, we're all sitting around going, well, they're not here. The DJ began to play the bride's chosen music. It was, I see blue skies, And the minute she heard the song, she stood up and she went to begin the first dance with the groom. His parents show up. I know. Some of you gal, I know. Shelly turns to me, my wife, she goes, do something. Do what? The father of the groom makes his way to the dance floor, and he's not just walking there. He's like, and now Shelly's like pushing me like, get up, get up. I'm like, baby, look at me. Well, but don't laugh so heartily. That's not. Come on, okay, come on. You don't even know. You don't even know. So she's like, do something. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, just go and block him. So, I stand up and I'm making my way there, not knowing what's going to happen. I'm kind of not walking real fast. I reach him too late. He's already got his hands on his son, the groom. And I thought, it's done. I just want to turn my face and not get blood on me. He moved his son out of the way, grabbed the bride's hands, and began to dance with her. Exactly. Not a dry eye in the whole place. We were all just, and everything is right with the universe suddenly. People are hugging and saying, I love you. I don't even know you, but I love you. Everything's going to be okay. Shelly and I are holding each other, and she's sobbing into my shoulders. And what a release of tension. Every relationship, no matter how strained, it was healed, at least for a moment. What if the wedding supper of the Lamb is that? And what the Revelator is trying to describe to us is a moment when you're most strained, most conflicted, most just a relationship that is not working is made right because we're in the presence of the one who before he went to his death, he prayed the prayer that eventually will be fulfilled. Make them one, like we are one. Would you exchange the crown, the lion that will not eat you, the mangoes in the streets of gold, and that mansion that you had your mind set on for that moment? Would you? Number 5. The Revelator says, God will wipe every tear from their eyes. There'll be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, For the old order of things has passed away. What do we cry about? What do we cry about? My son Micah has had a little teddy bear, a little stuffed animal. It's called Skipito. You guys have Skipito here? Some of you parents are like, maybe, no. Skipito. It's a little series of books, and Skipito is he's a mouse, he thinks he's a cat, and anyway, it's not important. The important thing is that he had Skipito since he was born, and a year ago he lost it on some trip. We didn't do the thing that parents are supposed to do. You get two of them, and then if one goes, you're like, hey. Yes, it's the same one. We had it cleaned. No, it was gone, and that boy cried and cried and cried for about 5 minutes. And then he was over it. What do we cry about? We cry about, once in a while I get students at La Sierra where I work that are, he broke up with me. Life is over. The oxygen has been sucked from the earth. I can't breathe. It's excruciating. A girl was saying this to me just last fall. I don't know how to go on. I don't know. Tears, big tears. Next week, I run into her at the Commons, and she's doing the thing. I explained to the brothers last night. She's doing the thing where, no offense, ladies, girls, but there's like a posture you have that's like tractor beam. You've engaged it. Thumbs to the back pockets. You know what I'm talking about? You've got your shoes turned like this, and your head like, I don't know. Oh, we know. Brother, if you don't know that look, run. When you see it, run. I walk into the cafeteria, and she's got the look. She's like talking to some guy, and she's like, oh no. And I'm like, what? So I walk up to her, and I'm like, can you breathe? Now? And she's like, shh. Like, I'm going to mess it up with the new dude she's talking to. I'm like, no, remember last week you were telling me that you didn't know how life could go on because you were in love with that other guy. And she's like, please, stop talking. What do we cry about? We don't cry about that. It lasts, but not very long. Not very long. Here's what we cry about. These tears. We mourn the loss of people. How many of us? Some of us multiple times have gotten that phone call. You've stood by that bedside, you've held a hand, and then you stood by a casket, and you've said to yourself, I don't know how I will survive tomorrow. You know, the first time it happened to me, we had been singing this song, cheesy, side by side we stand, and all the guys, we loved this song because it gave us an excuse to grab a girl's hand and go, because we all knew the chorus is coming. And during the chorus, we say, meet me in heaven, we'll join hands together. No, I'm not going to let go for the rest of the song. I want you to just hold your hand. Meet me at the other side. And then it happened. A dear, dear friend of mine was killed in a car accident, a drunk driver, and we sang the song by his casket. And it meant something completely different. Because we no longer wanted streets of gold, mangoes, crowns, mansions. We wanted him. Would you give up the foolishness, the jewels, the lion, the meadow for that? Last one, number 6. The Revelator says, I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, now the dwelling of God. Does this sound familiar? John 1. John 1, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. Yeah. The Revelator says the dwelling of God is with us, with men, with people. And he will live with them, They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. The one that we have sung about all our lives. Some of us, from the time we were just barely verbal, Jesus loves me, Jesus loves me. Some of us, till the day we are done on this earth, we've sung, we will be with him. And what do you do at that moment? A student, they brought a student to my office. He made an appointment because something was wrong with her health. They parked her in a wheelchair in my office, and the whole time I'm talking to her, I realized she's not looking at me. She's looking just, sometimes you talk to people and they're looking kind of right, like past you. Like just a little bit. So I just moved myself a little bit into her field of vision. You see me now? No. She's still looking kind of beyond me, and she finally kind of sensed that I was moving a little bit. She said, I can't see you because I am going blind. And all I see is shadows and changes in light, texture. I can hear your voice, but I can't see you. But I can sense your movement. Please stop making it awkward. And from there on, we began. So what happened to her, she went on some trip somewhere and came back with some neurological problem that began to deteriorate her body. And her legs went first. She couldn't use her legs, and her vision began to fail. We prayed for months. She would come to my office, and she would say, pray for healing for me. Please pray for healing for me. I can't fathom that I'm 19, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life not being able to see. Our prayers changed. Over the course of the next 6 months, we stopped praying, God, heal her, you're powerful, you're great, because we believe that he is. We began to say things like, God, in your mercy, would you please give her the courage and the strength to know that Jesus is all she needs and that she can live like this. At the end of the school year, she wrote me a note in Braille, which was in my bag. And the note said, we walk by faith, not by sight. Thank you, Pastor. We walk by faith, not by sight. She'd gotten to the point where she realized, I may not be able to see, but I have Jesus. I have Jesus. Well, postscript to this story, 3 months later, after the summer break, we're all standing around my office at the beginning of the school year. The first couple of days of school, it's loud, there's people shouting, there's people screaming, and sometimes you're in a room and you're having fun, and there's people talking and enjoying and whatever, and then you sense a presence in the doorway. Has this ever happened to you? Maybe it happens to me. Like, there's been someone watching, and none of us have noticed, but the moment we noticed, because I have all my student workers under one strict rule. If there's someone in the doorway and they need something, everyone gets quiet and we address the need. So everyone went quiet. We all looked. Girl standing in the doorway, looking at me, tears coming on her face. And she said, you are Sam. Over the summer, they figured it out. Some treatment she went through began to give her sight back, and she could see enough to stand there and go, I have known your voice, but now I can see your face. You have a squeaky, obnoxious voice. It's hard to miss. You are Sam. There is a moment coming when every single one of us will stand in the presence, and we will hear a voice and we'll go, it's you. I mean, let's work this out a little bit. Praise team, as you assemble, let's work this out. Some of you have been hearing me talk all week, and I am visual, I imagine things, and I try to think ahead to what this will look like. What will it look like? Papsta. You guys are like, let's get together and worship together in heaven as Papsta. And your Kara will be up here saying, holy, holy, holy. I kind of fell apart during the song today. I'm overwhelmed by the language of that song. Clothed in wonder. What if we're assembled like this, and you invite me to be the speaker? Remember back on earth, okay, let's invite Pastor Sam, and he comes over, and I stand in front of you, but yet it's awkward because he is there, Jesus. So I probably shouldn't talk, should I? We should say, Jesus, no, you speak. Or do we sing? Do we sing to Jesus? Wait, because, we're trained now to look at the screens. That makes it less awkward than looking at each other and so on. But there, do we look at the screens or do we look at him? Holy, holy, holy. It's you. And what does Jesus do when he's receiving all this praise? I obsess about the weirdest things I know. 6 billion people lined up to see him after church. So it's a long line. But you make it. Do we do an offering call? No, of course not. Do we talk about the trip to Africa? No, of course not, because there will be no Africa. There'll be one world. But okay, so at the end of the service, you make the line because we're real. I said at the very first point, it's real. It's real. We're real, and he's real. He's flesh and bones like we are, according to what the Bible teaches us. So you have to make the line, but because you're polite, you're from New Zealand, you make the line, you don't cut, right? And so it takes you time. It takes you a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. And finally, there is a moment. 3 or 4 people left. Do you know what you're going to say? Do you? I have thought this through. Jesus, it's me, Sam Lenore. You know that already, sorry. My dad's name is Sam Lenore too, and we probably look alike now because we're all about the same age. And that's not important, because you know every hair in my head and you know him too. Do you talk, or do you just fall to your knees and just embrace his legs? And do you say thank you? Because thank you is kind of stupid. Thank you doesn't quite say it, does it? Let's just thank you. No. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No. What if we just, at that moment, just let him scan you and sense your love and devotion for him? But here's the question. Here's the question. Would you give up the mansion and the crown, streets of gold, for that moment? I hope you will.